first time in church.
I got the phone call, shall I say, Sunday morning when Shlomo Jacobi, his brother, Yehuda, wasn't well, called me. He didn't know that I knew Mr. Jacobi, Shlomo. I got to meet him over 20 years ago by his son's bar mitzvah, which I did. And I didn't believe it myself. For the little time that I did remember him, he was a proud Jew. He was a proud Israeli Jew who stood up for what is the real thing. From what I understood of the family, besides that they immigrated to Israel before it was fashionable to move to Israel. They lived in northern Iran in a city called Mashhad, which was a very Jewish city for over 2,000 years. And this pride he always carried with him as a proud Jew, even though it wasn't fashionable. He also was a man who was in the Israeli Navy, and he fought for being a Jew. Simply put, nothing else. Very proud. In this week's Torah portion, we talk about what we say is a combination of two portions. One is called matos, and one is called masa. Matos represents a stick. Sometimes can be used for good things, and sometimes could be used for negative things. Masa is talking about the story of the Jews who left Egypt to go to Israel, and they had many stops along the way. Going to Israel today, you take a plane and you go to Israel. When the Jews when they left Egypt, Masa means travels. Whenever you travel, you still remember who you are as a Jew. And this was, or is, I should say is, Shlomo lived this life. He was a proud Jew wherever he went. In Hebrew we say, in the book of Genesis it says, Zeh Sefer Torah Sodom, this is the book of the history of man. What does it mean, the book of history of man? History of man is we all make our history. Whatever we do becomes history. Shlomo lived a life of he was a simple man. And a few times I met him. He he didn't brag, didn't flaunt a lot about himself, but he definitely was a proud Jew. He made it his business to take care of his kids and his family. And it wasn't easy for him. That I do know. But he still made that. He made that commitment, and he traveled wherever they were. And even then, the boys told me that it was between Portland and here. Some of his boys were between Portland and here, so he made his business travel. And that was a man who cared for his family. Contrary to the values of most people who, when the kids leave the house, you're on your own. I don't want to know of you. He had a place for them, and they had a place for him. And that showed in the love that the kids took care of him. And they really respected him and they cared for him. Unfortunately today, it's no big deal. Social services will take care of him. The values that he gave his boys was a different set of values. And that is his legacy. If you take the numbers, the word shlomo, which some people say it's peace, that's true. You have to look at the numerical value of peace. The name Shlomo is 375. So 375, if you look at the Hebrew numerical equivalent, called Gematria, spells out Ish Hogan, a decent person. Shlomo definitely was that decent person. Also, in Hebrew, the words mehalochamim ha'amitzim. Halochamim ha'amitzim are the fierce fighters. He definitely was a fierce fighter for Jewish causes. He fought in the Israeli Navy, and he was a proud Jew. Also, the words Mora Machanech, he was a teacher. Have faith. And the fact that Abraham had faith at that point, God considered that a big charity. This is the numerical equivalent of the name Shimshon. This is the legacy we say. We're not saying goodbye. Because in the Jewish world we say, King Solomon says, V'chayit in a living person shall put a place into their heart. What does it mean, a living person shall place into their heart? When you think of the person, they left a living legacy, that is what we have to live with. Their lessons in life. And that doesn't go away when the physical body is buried in the ground. The spirit still lives on, and it transcends time and space, and that is our living legacy. This is what we take with. The fact that we are here, emulating his life, that keeps him alive. Well, at this point, I'll ask some of the sons and anybody else who wants to say a few words to say a few words, and then we're going to say some psalms.
Yeah, like he said, if you have something written down, or even if you don't, you want to come up just after me and my brothers and his brothers, if they want to go, come up. I know some people wrote some things, so don't be shy. First of all, thank you for coming, everybody. I know that everybody put in a lot of effort for making all this happen on such short notice. It wasn't easy. So thank you for the people that traveled, for the people that did all the things here, for the people that helped with all the side projects and everything else. It was a lot of work, so we all appreciate that. I especially want to thank David, Michelle, and Hayden for taking such amazing care of Dad these last couple of years. Last night we told a lot of stories and jokes and some of his famous quotes we all call shlomoisms. That was a phrase coined by my friend Amy. In fact, all weekend Dad's spirit was alive, well, and stronger than ever, kind of along the same lines that the rabbi was saying. And he's not going anywhere as far as I'm concerned, kind of like what Rabbi was saying. All the lessons he taught us, all the things he asked of us. Be good to your family. Do not text and drive. And please, Joel, stop drinking those power drinks. The word that comes to mind most when it comes to Dad is generosity. Whether that meant opening his home, sharing his food, being kind to people he never met, helping one of us when we were in need, and always being a generous tipper at the hometown buffet. And if you have stock in the hometown buffet, it is time to sell. Sell. Most people, including you all, have known him for 20, 30, 40 years or more. I'm glad that the rest of the world got to know him at his now famous speech at my wedding. He stole the show by making everybody laugh, cry, feel every emotion. I will say he was crazy about his granddaughter. I always argued with him about who his favorite was, and he says, I have no favorites except for Hayden. She is my favorite. And he was extremely loyal to all of his sons. I got a text from Mary Jane's dad, who he became very close with because they were both living with us, arguing about politics, driving both of us crazy. But they got to know each other very well, and her dad got to know him pretty intimately. And when he retired, her dad asked him, what do you want to do? What are you going to do now that you're retired? And he said, I just want to live the rest of my life close to my children, and that's all that he wanted. The caveat was that we had to live near a buffet or a Sweet Tomatoes. I'm sorry I gave him a hard time about eating rice, bread, potatoes, and everything else. I just wanted him to live a long time. Oh, period. All I ask of you is to tell his stories forever. Do your best Shlomo impersonations. Be kind to strangers, and ask what would Shlomo do, which was the right thing each and every time. Tell off-colored jokes. Sneak tomatoes into the movie theater. Smile at every child that walks by, just not in a weird way. And spend time with your family. He lives on, as the rabbi says, again, I'm agreeing with him completely. He lives on with me, my brothers, Hayden, and every one of you here, and even the people that can't be here that wish they were here. He lives on with all of us, so that's it.
I'll be short. The last time that I talked to my dad, he wanted to come up and stay with us. On July 5th, like right after the holiday, and I told him to come in August. I told. Okay. So I told him to come in August because we were really busy, and he said that's fine. I'll come in August after. So we agreed that he would come in August, and that was the last time I ever talked to him. So I was kind of, sad that was the last conversation I had, and that, he didn't come. We didn't get to see him. But, it's not about the last week, or the last month. It's about the whole life. My dad was happy to see us all get married and have Hayden. So he lived a great life, and I think he went out how he wanted to go out. So, I think everything happened like, it was supposed to. So it's not about, a part, but about the whole thing. I think my dad lived the life the way he wanted to, so that's all I got.
I didn't want to get messed up, so I wrote everything down. What can I say about Shlomo Yacobi that most of you don't already know? I think Melissa and Mary Jane prepared the pamphlet. Yeah.
So the program?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you need it?
No, I have it on here. I have some of those things. He was a son, brother, father, Saba, uncle. He was a Navy sailor, an auctioneer, a carpet salesman, #1 in the U.S. in 1985. A taxi driver, a gas station manager, a poker shark, and a Jewish Israeli, among other things. He had quadruple bypass surgery over 15 years ago, and since that time,
we have all been enjoying bonus shlomo time. He did not like to discuss his health or admit to his health problems. Even after he had quadruple bypass surgery, they told him, he said, they told me I had a little heart attack, but I don't believe them. I told him, Dad, they don't do quadruple bypass surgery for fun. When I took him to the ER 2 nights before he passed away, the only question he kept asking me was, okay, can we go home now? We hadn't even seen the doctor yet. And the day before he died, he left us a note telling us how much better he felt and thanked us for taking care of him. He even tried to drive to Hometown Buffet, which I'll stop him.
And Hayden.
Yeah, and so she had to feed him. Of course, she said, "Now you have to make me an omelet because you didn't let me eat." The happiest day I ever remember was the first time my dad saw Hayden. She was less than a month old, and she was laying in our big, huge king bed in the middle. And he walked in our room, and he couldn't even get past the door. He just started crying, and sorry. He just gave Michelle a big hug and thanked her like 1,000 times. We all moved him down to Fresno about 2 years ago to spend more time with Hayden and be closer to his brothers in LA. And I just want to be honest here. Shlomo living in your home is not all roses and Shlomoism. there's some rough patches, but he definitely got his share of time with Hayden. And just an example, something that I bring up often. When the election was going on, my dad was watching Fox News in his bedroom, and it was a broadcast about Donald Trump, and Hayden walked in and said, "Donald Trump sucks, and I hope he's not elected president." And my dad said, "Oh yeah? Who are you voting for?" And I said, "Dad, she's 8. She's not voting for anybody." Yeah. So he kind of became a local legend at the neighborhood card rooms I would take him to. If I mentioned the possibility of going any time in the day, he would be knocking on our bedroom door until midnight, even on a weekday, to go play. So I'd be in bed, and he'd be like, "Are we going?" That was the only thing he didn't like to do alone. He always liked to go with somebody, so we went pretty often. And while he was with us, we went to baseball games, bowling, movies, and of course many dinners. One of the reasons he agreed to move in was because he confirmed Hometown Buffet was a couple blocks away from our house. It's I don't know if it's the worst one, but it's terrible. And occasionally he would convince me to go with him and reintroduce me to all the employees. And he said, "This is one of my sons I told you about." At night he would watch TV in his bed, and the only thing we could do to lure him out was put a hot dinner on the table. And he would always make a prayer with a piece of bread and try to use it as an excuse to eat more than his share. Dad was not an overly and outwardly religious man, but his beliefs were strongly rooted, and he would be extremely grateful that the same rabbi that presided over our bar mitzvah is here to make the prayer before them, to make the prayer here today, and perform the ritual prayer and cleansing over his body earlier today. Thank you, Rabbi. Rabbi Yisrael. Shlomo was a man of many quotes. As you know, there's a page dedicated to him, which Joel spoke of. And so many of them are not appropriate for a funeral setting. So I thought I would discuss one that's only mildly inappropriate. He often said to people, when you meet someone who thinks they're such a big deal, you tell them they're producing crap 24 hours a day. They're a crap machine. And, you know, as Dad grew older, he became less articulate and more goofy. But this was a point of view that he had, that he shared with many people. And what I think he meant by it was to try and treat everyone the same way. And that's why I hope we all learn from him. Thank you.
We'll say some psalms.
I think some other people might want to speak.
Huh?
Other people might want to speak.
Anybody else wants to speak?
I think a few people. Kathy? Just why don't you jump up there?
My name is Kathy, and I met Shlomo at Hometown Buffet in Portland, Oregon. And I passed by him, and I smiled, and so he came to my table, and he asked me, was I married? And I said, no. He said, is this your boyfriend? Because I was with another guy. I said, no, just a friend. So a friend came to the table, and he asked me, he said, are you married? Is this your wife? He said, no. Is this your girlfriend? He said, no. Then he asked me for my phone number. That's how we met. And when I was with Shlomo, he talked about his boys. He talked about his family. We looked at videos of his boys when they were, the twins when they were little. And we did a lot of things together. He met my family, and my family just loves Shlomo. I have twins, nephews that call him Grandpa Shlomo. And my grandson, who was here in Portland, just came to visit me. That week, Shlomo was sick. I couldn't sleep. I just kept feeling his spirit. And I would just cry for just, I don't know why I was crying, but I didn't know what was going on. And I called Shlomo, and every time the phone would go to the voicemail. And I remember about maybe 3 months ago, I asked Shlomo, I said, we're on the phone just about every night talking for an hour or two. I said, I got to get up early in the morning because I have to go to the gym at 6. And I said, you sleep all day. And I asked him one day, I said, Shlomo, why you sleep so much? And he told me, he said, this about 2.5, 3 months ago, he said, I think I'm going to go up to be with him. But anyway, that day, that week, I just kept crying. He was in my spirit so much. And it was just so hard. And when I found out what happened, my grandson was there, and I screamed and I started crying. And my sister ran in the room and she said, Shlomo died. I said, yes. And my grandson immediately said, he's 10 years old. He said, I talked to Mr. Shlomo on the phone. Grandma, he was a very nice man. He was your friend. I said, yes, he was my best friend, and I loved him so much. And I just lost my sister from cancer a couple months ago, so it's just like I've been going through stuff. But I just thank God he's given me strength to be here, because if I was going to make it here, I said, even if I had to walk, but I know I couldn't walk here, but I just thank God that I'm here to be with his family. And then I have a sister, her name is Rose, and she would name me Slow Lita. So she called me that name. But he was just a great friend, and I loved him a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Go ahead, Jesse.
Oh,
Okay, go ahead.
Saba was my grandfather, and I loved him dearly. And the last time that I saw him, he said, "I love you." And that was a very nice thing to hear. And I made this for him a couple months back. It was 10 reasons why I love Saba. And I made a book. The reasons were he's nice, he's caring, he likes to take the places, he doesn't argue with me that much. Well, I mean, I could have revised that one. We're family. He's kind. He gives me gifts sometimes. He loves our cats, which is a weird one. Exaggeration, pretty much. And he loves me back. And the last day that I saw him, I knew that God would like him a lot because he was very nice, he was very kind, and he was always nice to strangers. And I liked that about him. I liked how he was always there for everybody, no matter what kind of thing was wrong. And when my daddy went to the emergency room, I knew that I was gonna have to say I love you a lot more times than I usually would, and let him know that I love him. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jesse.
So I've known Shlomo since I was 7 years old. Shlomo and I we'd steal money from partners in crime, and eventually ended up at his place, and he'd end up at mine. And I think back and so many things he did with us that you know were fatherly to me that my father never did. We could Dodger games, wrestling matches, argue over sports. I'd demand that he gamble with me. That I got to play poker, Uno, whatever, but there had to be money on the table. And he would try to convince me not to, but put $5 on the table and he'd win. I'm not taking your money. So, take us to his work, to Carpeteria. Joel and I would climb these mountains of carpet. Everybody thinks Shlomoism cheap. It never occurred to me that anything was ever cheap. We just always had the best time. He always included me. I mean, you go to Chuck E. Cheese. People may not know that Shlomo was a Pac-Man champion. He broke the system. Like, he knew what the routine was. He memorized where the ghosts would be, and people would watch him play at Chuck E. Cheese and be like, "What's going on here?" But that was before you could put the quarters up and gamble. So you could have made a lot of money. I remember being at Blockbuster Video, and I'd help him change the pricing. Cheap stuff on them. He goes, "Oh, I don't think we should do this." "Don't worry, they're making their money." We'd go to Santa Monica with him at work. Joel and I would run off. We'd run amok all over Santa Monica, the boardwalk, go get comic books under the carpets and read them. And yeah, when I was a teenager, he had a bit of a rough time, and I was 14 or 15, and my parents moved, and I didn't want to go anywhere. He said, "You're a good boy and a good friend to Joel. You can always stay here." So I did. I gave him a bit of money, but he never asked for anything else. He stayed there for months. Even drove him to work sometimes. And I always think back, and I got to see him again after 20 years at Joel's bachelor party in Vegas. And same old Shlomo, finally got to see him and say, he's like a father to me at a very important time in my life. Only fantastic memories, a really magical time that I hope my boys have. I really hope my boys turn out like his boys. I really do. I'm so proud of all of you. Always did the right thing, grew up, got married, and was just so happy. I think about my boys and I hope for the same. I think about myself throughout the years when I've been in tougher times. I think about you guys and how Shlomo raised you and how you've become the men you are. Gives me strength too. But he'll be missed and remembered by me forever.
Thanks, Jesse. Darren? Okay.
My name is Darren.
David.
I've been a friend of Joel's for about 25 years now.
Have Michelle follow Amy.
Over the years, I got to know Shlomo very well. Cannot express how much of a great and humble man this guy was, with a great sense of humor. Shlomo would always give me and Joel some type of lectures. He would tell us about the women that we should date, and he would just go on for hours and hours. And here me and Joel are just trying to go out to a club or something like that, and he would just keep us trapped there for hours and hours. Finally we get to go. But I'm so glad through those times that he taught us so many things. Last year at Joel's bachelor party, I remember it's probably like 2 in the morning, and we were out. And as you all know, Shlomo, he's a ladies' man, and he knows his way with the ladies. And here we are in the food court, and there's a guy with his girlfriend, and Shlomo just randomly starts to go up and talks to him. A few minutes later, he's next to him, sitting down, and he's digging his fingers in her fries and just eating it away. But that was Shlomo, and that's what made him the legend that he was, and will always be. I've always been amazed for his love for his children, his grandchildren, his family, and his friends. If any of you know a Jacoby, they always want to make sure that you're happy and having a good time. Whenever I saw Shlomo with his granddaughter Haley, his smile and love for her would light up the whole room. He's had his way with children. They all loved him. Even my own Jacob and McKenna. McKenna loved being around him because he made her laugh. As for Jacob, he loved his sense of humor, and he'd always look out for Shlomo to make sure he was okay. Shlomo was like a father, a brother, and a great friend to all of us. We'll miss you, and you will always be in our hearts and memories. To the family and the friends, to my wife and my children, please accept our condolences. And then I have one little last one. This is just a short one from my daughter McKenna. She wanted to write a little note to him. She said, "I will miss the fun times we had, and I will always remember the family things, the funny things that you taught me." Love, McKenna. Thank you.
Very sweet. Very sweet. Go ahead, Amy.
So, the first time I met Shlomo, he called me on the phone and asked me out on a date. Because Joel and Brittany told him I was single. And we talked for about an hour and a half, and he was so charming. And when I finally said, "You know, Shlomo, I'm married," he was horrified. And then the next time when I met Shlomo in person was in Reseda, and he was offering me lots of videotapes, which was a great comedic. I've never heard the end of it from Joel. All the different movies, Octopussy, An Affair to Remember. But I remember the time that we were all at Bass Lake, and I had never met the twins. and he was just kept talking about how great they were and how excited he was to see them. And when we all went into the restaurant and the twins were there, and he was just beaming, and that was the first time I really saw how much he loves his kids. And you know, I mean, it's just amazing, his love for his children. And when Hayden was born and they said, oh, he's moving to Fresno, I was like, of course he is, because he's got to be close to native. And he never surprised me with anything that came out of his mouth. It was always hilarious and kind. And he raised such good boys. And I'm so proud to call them my family, even though Joel hates it. And I'm not sad for Shlomo. I think he's had a good life and he led a good life. But I am sad for all of us because he's not here anymore. But the other thing was when I called, because Darren called me, and then I immediately called Brittany and Ashley. And when Ashley answered the phone, I said, honey, Shlomo passed away. And I don't remember what she said, but the first thing she said was, oh my God, remember the time at the hotel and the casino? And Shlomo said this, and we both just started cracking up laughing, and that's Shlomo. And I'm gonna miss it.
Thank you, everybody. This is really hard for me. When Hayden and I got word that Dad was going to come live with us, we were so excited because we knew that he really needed some time to be with you. And believe me, he had some great times. We scooped him up and took him for pedicures and things that I'm not sure if he was more afraid of or the actual person doing his feet were. You took him to the park that he loved, the ducks, but never wanted them to be too close to us because they might bite Hayden. He always worried for Hayden and loved for Hayden and was so excited to have Hayden. He loved his boys. For 2 years, having him in my home, that's all he spoke about. His brothers, whom he loved to go see, but they never knew ahead of time because he would show up on their doorstep. Sometimes. Yeah. And then if I ever mentioned Joel, he would say, don't you say anything about my Joel. He's perfect. He just loved Joel. He loved Jonathan. He just wished he could see them more, but he was so happy every time he did. He was so happy that they found women that made them very happy. Because he was very much a part of family. He don't know if all of you know, but he has a son in South Africa, and when he told us about him, he started crying because he couldn't believe that he could have something else to love in this world. That's what Dad was all about. He was all about love. The last few days that he was with us were a little rough because he was a little confused, and we were a little worried because nobody was helping us with him, and we knew something was wrong. But he never once complained. He always followed orders. He was getting used to that the last few years in his life because we kind of had to shuffle him around and give him a couple orders. But he was the most loving man that I knew, and since I lost my father, when I met them, he kind of fell in that place for me and kind of showed me what a real dad does and loves and lives for his family and for his life. So I was really proud to know Shlomo and very happy that Hayden was born because he wanted some grandchildren. He just loved her so much. So he not only loved her, but he loved Kaylee. He talked about Kaylee. He said so many nice things, huh? He loved Kaylee like his own granddaughter. So I just want to say thank you for everybody coming, because he's going to be missed in our family. Oh, I need to read this. This was from David Easton. I'm going to try and get through this. Since I was a child, I have always wanted to meet my father. I had so many questions to ask. I finally met him when I was 37, and I wasn't disappointed. Not only did I have a father, I had 3 brothers as well. Overnight, my life had changed. My mother passed away, and the only family I had was my brother Alex and my son Jade, Shlomo's grandson, until I welcomed into the Yacobi tribe, and I was welcome. I'm in London at the moment and found out about my father's passing on the first morning I arrived to the UK. I had spoke to Shlomo last week, and we discussed him meeting his grandson Jade next year. Whenever he spoke, he asked about Jade and was so happy that he had a grandson. I will be back next year with Jade so Shlomo's legacy can continue. The little time I spent with Shlomo, it didn't take long to realize what an amazing, unique, loving man he was. And I was welcomed with open arms and immediately felt connected with him. Meeting Joel, Jonathan, and David has been the highlight of my life so far. I feel love from them and total acceptance. At Joel's wedding last year, I was introduced to the family and met my uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews. Words I have never used before, but words I now use with pride. Shlomo gave me life, and in turn, my son life. I am eternally grateful for that. Looking to the future, I cannot wait to continue my relationship with my brothers and the Yacobi tribe. If I'm invited back next year to Josh's wedding, I will bring my son in honor of Shlomo. I just want to thank my brothers for what they have done and how accepted I feel. Joel led the way and accepted me unconditionally. Thank you, brothers. I love you, Shlomo. Thank you for life.
Anybody else? Rabbi?